Hi, my name is Paul Mason, and this is Mercury in a nutshell. And Mercury is often not seen because it is only visible in the evening or in the morning. And along with Venus, it's often called a morning or evening star. And in this picture, both Venus and Mercury, Venus here, Mercury a little bit higher, are seen in the evening just after sunset. And the planet Mercury, though, was more of a mystery for a long time because it is so close to the sun and hard to observe. But Mercury has no atmosphere, virtually no atmosphere. There's maybe a tiny amount of gases that would not really be considered an atmosphere. And Mercury has lots of craters covering its surface, no water on the surface, and no very large magnetic field. It's rotating slowly. And in fact, the spin and orbit of Mercury has what is called a 2 to 3 resonance. And this is because of its close proximity to the sun, and in fact the somewhat eccentric orbit. It's not a perfect circle. It's not close to being a circle as in most of the other planets in the solar system. The spin period, how long it takes for Mercury to spin on its axis one time, is about 58 days, whereas the orbital period, how long it takes to orbit the sun, is about 88 days. What this means is if you follow the arrow, we start pointing with the arrow pointing at the sun. This might be a crater or something that we could view from and see the sun. And now, after all the way going around, it's on the opposite side. So as the planet spins again, making a final third rotation, it then comes back and points to the sun again. So it makes 2 orbits for every 3 spins. And this is called a 2 to 3 resonance. Now, the spacecraft Mariner 10, after a number of unsuccessful other Mariner spacecraft, went to Venus and Mercury and flew by Mercury in 1972. This is a diagram showing the spacecraft. And Mariner 10 mapped part, but not all of Mercury's surface, and found what I was mentioning in that it's covered by craters, no atmosphere, no indication of any recent geological activity. There was a giant impact feature discovered by Mariner 10 called Caloris Basin, and it's difficult to see here, but because the Mariner spacecraft did not map all of Mercury, but a huge impact feature is seen, and we now can see images with more detail than that. But for a long time, all we had of Mercury was the observation of only part of its surface by Mariner 10 in 1972. And for many years, that was all we had known about Mercury's surface. But the Messenger spacecraft between 2008 and 2015 mapped virtually the entire surface of Mercury in high detail and found quite a number of things. And this is a picture showing the complicated orbit that Messenger took on its way to Mercury. And this was done in order to save fuel. The spacecraft flew by Venus in 2006 and again in 2007, flew by Mercury in 2008, and then by 2011 it began orbiting Mercury and did that until 2015. Mercury Messenger studied something that had been already detected or studied in some detail here by Messenger, the ice in the polar regions. And so in both poles, at the bottom of craters, there is ice, and this is presumably comes from comets that come in too close to the sun. They hit Mercury, and Mercury has an interesting feature about its spin. Its spin is very perpendicular to its orbit. That means at the bottom of craters at the North Pole and the South Pole of Mercury, there is never any sunlight seen. And so ice that lands in there from a comet impact does not melt. And so this is a false color picture showing those craters and that the ice that's detected there. So it's not real color, but it is the method that they can use to find the ice and see the ice here. In 1998, an amateur astronomer found a white spot on Mercury, and the close-up images from Messenger found that this bright spot is a volcanic vent, or we can think of it as a volcano. There's also possible volcano in Caloris Basin. Caloris Basin was flooded by lava a long time ago, probably several billion years ago, and lava flowed out, and this false color image shows the orange color. This is an enhancement to show where the lava has flowed, and we can see the blue here actually indicates dark regions where impacts have busted through a layer of lava and expose the dark, which shows up, the dark layer below, which shows up as blue in this image. The lava shows up as orange, and lots of interesting detail in this image with Caloris Basin. Here is a close-up view. I'll show you the object here. In the center is what appears to be a volcano, and these images have been enhanced. They take two images, one with the sun above and behind the camera, and one with the sun at a right angle to show the depth of the features. And we can see this probably is some sort of volcanic feature or a particularly strong impact. Mercury Messenger had a flyby in 2008, entered an orbit around Mercury in 2011. It took pictures and mapped the entire surface, as we can see here. So this again is a false color image showing high areas, showing the topography. The low areas are in blue. And so make sure to keep in mind that these are not real color. They use the enhanced false color to show details. Mercury Messenger took pictures of the surface until April 2015, when it crashed into Mercury intentionally. And so Mercury Messenger, as it finished its mission, crashed into the surface, and that's basically where we stand at this point in terms of understanding Mercury. We know Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, It is smaller than any of the other planets. And when its mass is measured, by having spacecraft orbit around it, its mass is found to be pretty large compared to its size. It has a high density. And this indicates that it has a very large iron core. So a very large iron core and a thinner mantle with no atmosphere, no oceans, no surface water, and polar ice caps. Not polar ice caps, but polar ice at the bottom of craters. Not in the form of caps, but in the bottom of craters. So that is Mercury in a nutshell.